Hello everyone, Keith Miller with Comprehensive Leadership Solutions, here to tell you a story and hopefully learn a little lesson from some of my mistakes. I'm going to talk to you about preparing for leadership. I'm also going to talk to you about situational leadership, knowing what to do, and don't make the mistakes that I did, okay? All right, some of you may know that upon graduation, I enlisted in the United States Army, where I ended up serving as a military policeman. Upon that tour, I ended up staying in active duty reserves while going to college. Uh, literally in the middle of my senior year, right after Thanksgiving, getting ready to take finals, I was called to active duty for Desert Shield, Desert Storm. I was an E5 sergeant, and upon deployment, we were literally flying overseas. We didn't know where we were going until we were in the air. We were told we were going to Germany, and I was tapped on the shoulder and said, "Keith, when we land, you're going to be a squad leader of those 10 folks." And I remember looking at my lieutenant and saying, "Me?" I said, I'm just an E5. That's an E6 position. And he said, "Well, Keith, listen, you're the only one with active duty experience, and you're going to be the one." And I remember thinking at that time, am I really ready for this? This isn't what I really wanted to do. I remember my dad telling me before I was deployed, do whatever you have to do to come back alive, because we didn't know where we were going. So we land, and I ended up getting partnered up with another active duty squad leader. Funny, his name ended up being Sergeant Skull. Isn't that ironic? Great name for an Army sergeant, trust me. So we start talking about how we're going to mesh his tent and my tent and work together as a unit. And so he starts giving me a tour, and he starts telling me everything that he does on active duty, and it is hardcore. I mean, everything from the boots below the bunk need to be shined and lined up, wall locker, everything's got to be in order. And I thought, you know what? If we're going to mesh these two together, I'm going to do the same thing. Well, that lasted about a month, and I literally started having mutiny. Because look, we all were being ripped from homes and jobs and school, and a lot of the guys just, they were feeling sorry for themselves, and it wasn't that they didn't want to do well while they were over there. They just wanted to not have to be in that hardcore environment. So I remember a month in, my assistant squad leader came to me and was telling me some of the grievances that everybody had. And I remember sitting there, and I took a walk afterwards listening to some of their complaints, and they were very, very legitimate. I mean, I was having them do PT every day. The schedule was pretty rigid because we were during wartime. And, the last thing is that they wanted to be able to have some control over some things and some say on who they were able to be partnered up with. So after hearing all of these things, I called them back in. I said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm dropping mandatory PT, but understand every 8 weeks you're going to have to take a PT test. I'm responsible. If you don't pass the PT test, then you're going to be working with me every single day." Okay? The next thing was the schedule. I turned it over to 2 individuals within the squad, understanding the parameters that they needed to be operated in. And yes, you can choose who you're going to be with. If at any point that they don't work out, or I find that there's any issues, then we're going to have to discuss it and move back to the way that we were. Understanding what their needs and what their wants was, it really made a huge difference. And from that point on, morale was boosted. Everybody was doing what they needed to do on a personal basis. Granted, it was more like a frat house than it was a military barracks at times. However, when it came to work, everybody did what they needed to do, and that was the bottom line. This accomplished the mission. And the end result was we did what we needed to do. I received an Army accommodation medal for the leadership while I was over there, but I learned a lot. Remember, prepare before you have to be in that situation, and also understand the situation.